Okay, and now we're live again. Yan. So, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Yan mga viewers ng Asklex, no. So, long time no see. Yan, long time no see. So, ang tagal natin na nakapagpahinga sa Alpha TV. No? So, good evening everyone. So, I'm your always techman Sir Jojo, and I'll be your techman for tonight. And ano bang special ngayong gabi, no? Well, we are still on the pandemic, okay? However, we have someone from the Asklex team that will help us how to cope up with this time, no? So ano ba yung mga essentials na kailangan natin tandaan, isipin, no? And makakatulong to sa ating mental health. Ayan, ito yung legit na makakatulong sa ating mental health. So, without further ado, may I introduce to you our speaker for tonight, Sir Coach Rai Cruz. Good evening, Coach Rai.
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, everyone. And
Ayan.
welcome once again to our webinar, which is entitled Strengthening Your Mental Wellness. Hello.
Ayan. So, Coach Rai, I won't be eating much of your time. The floor is yours now. And, ayun po. Goodbye and we'll see you later.
Thank you, Sir Joe. See you later. So, welcome, pleasant good evening once again to all our participants tonight. And to start the ball rolling, ayan, so you could utilize our chat box. We have our chat box over there in order for you to give us your feedback, or comments with regards to this as we go along with this session tonight. And I'm really happy and proud that you're attending this learning session because it would truly help you, especially now that we are in a deep stress brought about by the pandemic. So I'm Coach Rai, and I am a senior consultant at ASLEX Philippines as also a certified life coach. So I do handle programs, mostly the soft skills side, which is building teams, developing coaching and mentors, as well as strategic planning and change management. So welcome to this very special course or webinar for tonight because it's really intended for September is known as the Suicide Awareness Month. And because of that, we offer this a few tips that would strengthen your mental wellness, which is basic and should be essential to everyone for us in order to grow and move forward. Okay, so are we ready? Let's start the ball rolling by having a prayer, because one of the essentials of having a strength or strong mental well-being, especially mentally, is having that spiritual aspect. So let's all put ourselves in the loving presence of God. The learner's prayer. Almighty God, your wisdom prepares us as we learn, unlearn, and relearn new things today, and we're fully committed to expand our knowledge, skills, and attitude. Continue to bless us as we apply the things that we learn today, and may it all be according to your will for the use of your people and for the greater glory of your name. Amen and amen. All right. So just a snapshot of what we will learn for tonight. There are only three things. First is to understand mental stress and how do we manage it, because how do we become mentally strong or mentally well? It's how we manage the stress. So later on, we will zero in on the factors that affects our mental wellness, which is the primary is stress from all aspects of our lives. Second is The most important thing is that we will learn practical and proven scientific strategies that we can apply immediately, to strengthen our mental wellness. And looking forward, we will adapt the PERMA model, or we'll just give an overview of the PERMA model, because what we would like to happen is once we move forward in managing our stresses that comes into our lives by the techniques that I'll be teaching you later on, we want to move forward to a more positive future. And that is possible by understanding or adopting the PERMA model. All right? So if you have any questions, clarifications, just feel free to use our chat box. Okay? So the first question is, what is mental wellness? No? What is mental wellness all about? Well, according to World Health Organization, so this I got this reference, no, from non-partisan or non-biased organization, and a credible organization. No? It's defined as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, which is the most critical part, is coping up with the normal stresses that are happening in his or her life. No? Of course, we could work if we manage the stresses that comes into our lives, we could work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution not only to the family, to the organization we belong to our teams, but also to the community and society in general. So that's the definition of mental wellness according to World Health Organization. And because stress has been identified as the culprit, no, that affects our mental wellness. So let's have a survey and check where is our stress level as of now. No, it's very important that we determine uh, how are we in terms of the levels of stress that is happening now in our lives. And there's a well-known measuring tool for this, which is called the PSS, or Perceived Stress Scale, by Sheldon Cohen, developed by Sheldon Cohen. And just a disclaimer, no, the scores on the following self-assessment do not reflect any particular diagnosis or course of treatment, that they are meant to help and assess your level of stress. All right, so what I'd like you to do is go to the website that is written there. So I'll be putting that on the chat. I'll be typing that on the chat. So what I'd like you to do is to go to that link, https //www.bemindfulonline.com, test your stress. And once you get on that site, all you have to do is click the get your scores. Now you will see there, get your scores about the test your stress. And then from there, you'll just be asked 10 questions. Now, 10 questions about how do you feel today, and then what is are the things that you are not in control with, etc., etc. So there will be just 10 questions that you need to answer and rate it from 1 to 5, or 1 to 10 rather. So there's a scaling there. And then automatically, you will see your final score on what is your stress level as of now. All right, so I'll give you about 1 to 3 minutes to focus on that assessment. All right. Hi, Raymond. So Raymond is our former student from our coaching and mentoring masterclass. Hi, good evening. Nice to have you here also, Raymond, and as well as the other participants. So the first thing that you're gonna do is assess your level of stress on where are you are. Are you in the low, mid, or high stress? So just chat. Feel free to chat me if you're already done, and if you, what's the score? No, are you in the range of between 0 to 20, 20 and above, 30 and above, moderate? So there, moderate 17. Thanks for sharing, Odessa. Wow. Hi Gary, nice to have you also here. Wow, taas 30. No? Mukhang ano, marami kasi rin inasikaso si Gary eh. No, aside from work, mayroon pa siyang inaanong libro kaya very stressful siya ngayon. All right? So is everyone okay and have finished the assessment that we have? Okay, I'll give you 1 more minute. All right. So si Raymond, no pressure so far. Baba, 7, no? Very low. Okay, time is up. So, ayan, no? So this is my score, 18, no? So far, moderate. So as I've said, there are 3 levels. It's the low, moderate, and the high. So as you could see on your screens, 0 to 13 is the range of low stress. No? Usually, these are the scores around 13 to 19 are considerable or tolerable stress levels. That means you could easily manage it. For scores 14 to 26, no, moderate stress. So normally these are already considered high stress. No, so si Gary very very high 14, no. Almost nagba-boundary na siya sa high stress. So the 14 to 26, as you could see, no, they need to learn new stress reduction techniques or strategies. So it's good that you're here, Gary, so you'll learn more strategies to reduce those stresses and increase your exercise at least 3 times a week. Now, the physical activities like jogging or simply as meditating, breathing exercise, so forth and so on. Later on, we'll discuss that. And for high stress, no, this is the critical part. No, needs professional help. So Gary, you need professional help. No, that I know you could still manage this one, but what are they stressing when you reach this level is that it might affect your high blood pressure, or higher BMI. So that's why if you're stressful, sometimes you eat a lot, no? So or you watch a lot and like a couch potato watching Netflix, no? Of course, decrease sleep and increase alcohol consumption. Sometimes it would lead to um, sometimes violent behavior. No? These are all risk factors for cardiovascular disease. So we suggest, aside from finding, if it's really very stressful, you might want to consider, no, to have a professional help if ever. All right. Okay, so just to stress the credibility of this instrument, so this is the most widely actually used psychological instrument for measuring the perception of stress, even in the certified or the doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists. They use this test, no, to evaluate the level of stress in a person. So the things that we are looking here are or appraise are the things that are unpredictable, uncontrollable, and overloaded respondents, no, in which you find yourself into, because mostly stress comes from things that we cannot control. Okay, and the scale also includes a number of direct queries about current levels of your experienced stress. All right. So stress, no? Let's define what is stress. Ayan. So stress as defined by according to WebMD. So it's a medical definition that stress in your body is the reaction to a certain pressure from a certain situation or event. No, there are many types of stresses as well as origins. So types, basically to categorize them, it will fall under physical stresses. So this like a good example of this is, or PES, no? We will define the acronym the types of stress as PES. Physical, like for example, you were walking and then suddenly you step on a nail, no, on the floor. So there's the physical stress, there's a wound. So you're stressed because there's a wound, and then you're afraid of the blood. No? So that's already a stressful thing for you, especially if you need to to exercise or to do physical activities. It will affect you because of that, and it's a form of physical stress. Emotional stress are the stresses that we have from relationships, no, that the or certain people saying bad words to us, or saying behind us, no, saying bad words behind us. So these are the origins. Social, so this is mainly for the family, no? The family relationships that we have. If there's a quarrel between boyfriends, girlfriend, husbands, and wives, so these are the sources of social stress. And the last is the transcendent, meaning spiritual stress. There are sometimes stresses when on our belief system, meaning on the spiritual side of our being. A good example of this is if we hear a certain debate from other, if you believe on this certain religion and then we disagree on a certain belief that was set by another religion. So that's an example of the transcendent stress. But mostly, the one we common that we experience are the physical, emotional, and social. So stress actually, no, is really is good, no, it's good because it pushes us, it motivates us to do things faster, and to for us to be energized to to do to do something to solve that problem, or in order for us to remove that stress. But the problem is, or the main culprit is when we get hooked with the stress. No, that's the main problem. We get hooked, as you could see in the picture, when stress hook us. So what will happen? What's the next thing that will happen is we will either put the stress to other people by shouting, by displaying negative behavior, no, and or by deciding um, badly on things, on the way that we will behave. So that's the problem when we get hooked with the stress. And what happens when the stress hooks us? No, it affects our flow of thoughts, feelings, and therefore resulting to a negative action. Okay? So some clear signs, no, that we are being hooked by this so-called stress. So we go to a fight, no? Eye of the tiger, the arguments, agreements. Of course, we shout. We, if especially if uh, someone has told us something that we are really irritated by it, no, we tend to boil our blood, and our blood rises to our minds, and we shout, and sometimes in my experience, no, I sometimes black out, no, because of uh, too much stress or too much bad things that is happening in me, and then I display it in a negative fashion as well, through shouting, fighting, because something triggered it. No, a good example is if I'm having arguments sometimes with my wife, and if she said something that I am not agreeable with it, no, it it triggers my mind, and I get hooked by the stress, and I also shout, no, and I also don't want to not to lose the argument, but win over it, no, and express the emotions and the negative behavior, etc. Or another thing that we are doing is that we might withdraw away from people, that we love. I know one friend couple of mine. The guy, what when they are fighting, what he does is he just leave the house and take things to cool off, and then he returns again after a couple of hours. Or some spend their time lying in bed, or others just playing games, or doing different activities, physical activities like cleaning the house, or that's a good result, no, by being hooked by the stress. But sometimes it creates negativity. I mean, negativity vibe in the house. So what we would like to happen is for us to get unhooked on that stress. So the big question is, how can we unhook? And that, my dear participants, is why no, we are here tonight. We will have this a few but effective and scientifically proven techniques to get us unhooked with this so-called stress, in order for us to strengthen our mental wellness. Now, that's the first step, is to unhook on that stress. And then the second part, which I will share with you, is to look at things using the PERMA model. Okay? So first, it's the initials are just IBC. No, it's like you're watching IBC 13. No, so there's a strong recall of the technique or strategy that we would learn from tonight. No, so the first thing in order for us to strengthen our mental wellness is to get unhooked on that stress. So the IBC, let's start with the letter I. I is to identify, the thoughts and feelings. So later on, we will discuss on ways that we could identify the thoughts and feelings that comes into our minds. Second is B for breathing exercise. So I'll teach you a simple yet effective breathing exercise where we could relax and somehow remove the stress, in our system. And last but not the least, I'll be teaching you a formula wherein we could use a cognitive refrain. So C is for cognitive refrain. So what we would like to happen, as the saying goes, that in order for you to be significantly better, is to make this unhooking through the IBC technique a habit. No, because when we treat or practice this one and make it as a habit, it will build what we call muscle memory. No, it practically becomes automatic. What is muscle memory? It doesn't mean that the muscle has a memory, or has a brain. It means that we practically do things automatically. Like a good example is when you drive. No? When you're driving or a car or riding a motorbike, automatically you already know, no, how to operate the car or the bicycle that you are riding. No, practically it's called muscle memory because you already know the steps on how to do it, even though you're thinking of another thing, like a project in the office, maybe while you're driving or operating the bicycle or a motorbike. Once you think of something, you're not anymore thinking about how to operate the motorbike, right? Or the car in driving it and shifting the gears. But practically, it's automatic. No, while thinking other things, you are doing another thing automatically. So this is what we would like to happen, because once this unhooking is instilled in our muscle memory through practice, and I'm sure that no stress, no, could affect you. And that is the first step in order for us to have or to strengthen our mental wellness. All right. So let's go to the first one, which is identifying our thoughts and feelings. So during stressful situations, there are things, no, like for example, a certain event that have happened, like your boss scolded you in front of your team members, no, and said unacceptable words, hurtful words that hurts your thoughts, hurts your feelings. So there are certain thoughts and feelings generated from there. Okay, so the key part here is to identify it, no? Meaning making a conscious choice to think it over before reacting, no? To identify it, like I notice that my stomach is aching because of the hurtful things that my boss is saying. So another example in a dining scenario, if you're with your family and then you suddenly being hooked by the stress, no, I'm noticing a feeling of anger. So maybe it's because your your children or your child said something that irritated you. So at that time you're being hooked by the stress. So the key action is to identify, no? I identify the thoughts and feelings. I notice that I'm feeling angry because my little daughter said this, or I notice that I'm feeling angry because of the news, no, that was said that they're expending too much on anti-insurgency activities versus the education, providing materials for the students, no, one by one, adding that 10 million budget from there against the 16 billion budget from anti-insurgency. So that's a good example. No? Sometimes it hooks us, no, and we felt angry, and sometimes no, there's a feeling of knot in my stomach, just what I described earlier when the boss was scolding the person with the team members, now in front of the team members, saying bad words or hurtful words. So let's apply. No? Was there any negative thought and feeling you have encountered today? So you could share in the chat box. No, was there any negative thought and feeling you have encountered today that you feel that you were hooked by this so-called stress, and identify what thoughts and feelings have you noticed. So I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes to share it with us using the chat box on what are those negative thoughts and feelings you have encountered today. Are there any or none? Especially for those who have answered, no, high in the stress levels, moderate to high. So please feel free to put it on the chat box. What is that negative thought and feeling, and how did you identify it? Well, how did you notice it? Was there a pain in the head? Was there a knot in your stomach, or was there a sudden beat in your heartbeat? Okay, stress at work, back pain. Okay, Odessa. So I feel you because of, are you working from home? Maybe because of too much, they call it Zoom fatigue. Nowadays, when you're working at home and then you're using the Zoom as a platform to meet up people and work, there's this thing so-called Zoom fatigue. You feel back pain, so you're stressed, no? It becomes a bit of a physical. No? So it's like I'm noticing, I'm feeling a back pain. No? Negative. Joshua also is a negative stress at work. So what were your thoughts and feeling, Joshua? Is there a headache? Yeah, headache. Okay, thank you for sharing. So that's the key. We identify first what are the thoughts and feelings that we have from those stressful situations. Like I feel that I have a headache, and then we will uncover what the headache came from. Okay, so George is feeling out of place, and my thoughts kind of troubling. So he tries to write no all the negative thoughts. After doing so, he feels better. So yes, that's correct, George. Thank you for sharing that. So that's also one technique in order for you to release stress, because sometimes we have no venue to release it. Some do it physically, doing a physical exercise. Some does journaling. No? That's journaling, part of journaling in order to relieve stress. So Gary's frustration, high anxiety. No? So high anxiety, meaning does it excite you, or it makes you like your muscles stiff, no? Like or you cannot sleep completely at night, especially because Gary's an IT guy, so down system is down, no? So it's really a stressful moment, especially business was affected because of that system issue, no, in which he has to fix as the IT. So what were you feeling? Were you feeling like stiffness in your chest? No, so those things, as you mentioned, there's a origin. No? There's from the stressful situation, there's a manifestation on how we receive it on our thoughts and feelings. And the first thing to do is I identify the thoughts and feelings that the stressful situation is manifesting on your body. No? So I noticed that I have a headache. I noticed that I have a back pain. So there's a feeling of, yes, the throat, no? It's like you're gasping for breath, or not naman ano, no, dryness nor itchy throat. Because if that's the case, you might be tested, no, immediately. And so uh, yeah, the key thing here is just identify, no? Identify the thoughts and feelings that you are feeling, or the way that you are thinking in terms of that stressful situation. So like there's a gasping for breath in terms of the throat, stiffness of the muscles, back pain. Okay, so from there, in order to relieve that, we will go to the second part, which is there. That's the SOP. In order for us to release those tensions, those stresses, all we have to do is to just breathe slowly and gently, no? Emptying our lungs. Not too deep in terms of inhaling and exhaling, but rather slowly inhale, count 1 to 3, that's inhale, 1001, 1002, 1003, hold, 1001, 1002, 1003, and then exhale. Exhale gently. So do it at least 2 to 3 times. So that would take about just 3 to 5 seconds. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, hold, exhale, then do it at least 2 to 3 times. Then after that, I'm sure that the some of the stresses in your system, in your mind, heart, body, chest, etc., back pain will somehow be relieved. No? Somehow be relieved. Because by doing this exercise, it is scientifically proven that it releases the tensions from our minds, from our bodies. No? So because we are inputting oxygen on our brain that keeps it more flowing and relaxed, as well as the brain commands our muscles to also release the tension and relax. So a simple breathing exercise would do the trick. And last but not the least, one of the most important thing, so after we have done the breathing, because I'm sure if sometimes the stress would hook us again, no? There's a tendency that the stress, we will think of the stress again, or the stress will come in again. And in order to shut down that, we have this technique of what we call cognitive refrain. And the secret formula is E plus R equals O, which E stands for event. So the different events that is happening in our lives, from the stresses, especially the stresses. And then the R is how do we respond to these events? And what would be the outcome? So E plus R equals O. It is a formula developed by the American psychologist Robert Resnick. And it has been proven that it's very effective in terms of reframing. Meaning, because we think of this stress, like for example, there's a system down. It's not that we are deviating from the problem. No? It's not that we're deviating from the problem, but we're deviating from the stress, no, that the problem is bringing to us. And through this reframing, we would see things differently. Like for example, if the event is there's a system down in your office, what would be your response? No, imagining it in your brain with that formula E plus R equals O, what would be my response in order to have a better outcome? No, because sometimes there's no thinking process on that. So the tendency, once that triggers, you will shout to your subordinates, hey, you, one, do it, do this, two, do that. No, that's the initial response, which results to blaming, no? Blaming and taking the negative reaction to other people, no? Which is not good because it's not the fault of everyone that the system is down, right? So that's a great formula in order to reframe things. If there's an event, you could always change the response in which you and you alone are the only one who could control your response, right? And you have that. There's a scientific study that shows that you have a control over your response because between an event and a response, there's a gap. No, there's about 2 to 3 second gap, wherein we have that gap on what will be our reaction or response. It's called the 90-10 principle. No? 10% of or 90% of the events that are happening to us, we always have the 90% to control the response. Of course, the other 10% are the emergency, no? Wherein we cannot control anymore our responses. So that's called the 90-10 principle as well. But this is a good formula in order for us to reframe from the event that is coming into us, no, from the identifying what makes you stressful through your thoughts and feelings. Is it a back pain, headache, or stiffness in your muscles, in your chest, or hurt in your throat? And then from there, do the release of the tension through the breathing exercise that I've taught you. And then make the cognitive refrain so that you would be able to really have a good response or an outcome. A good response equates to an outcome. To a positive response equates to a positive outcome. So here are some useful questions that we could explore in order for us to deepen, no? And to check what particular results that we want. What is your greatest problem at work or in life which affects your work? What is the outcome that you want? For example, what's your greatest problem at work? My boss yelled at me. No, does it affect my work negatively? I'm feeling a swirl in my stomach because whenever my boss shouts, I feel that it's always me who is at fault. No? So you should change your responses. It should be not like that. From that event, there should be a cognitive reframing wherein when the boss shout, let me check first what's the problem or what is wrong, and I will ask him, boss, what's wrong? Is there anything that I can do? So those are the type of responses we're looking at so that we will have a better outcome. So what outcome do you want? Do you want the other people will get angry as well to you if you shout to them? So by thinking of that in advance through the cognitive reframing formula, we would visualize, no, and change our responses in order to have a better outcome. And how does it feel? Visualize it, and what actions are you committed to take by when? So this also applies to some effective coaching questions that you could generate when you're coaching your subordinates. So why are we doing this? No? Why are we having this session? Because as what the sciences have shown, according to research, is that we have this so-called negativity bias. And what is negativity bias? Now, negativity bias makes us subconsciously give more psychological significance to negative experiences rather than positive ones, or if it has the same intensity. It means if your mind, if given a situation or an event, no, it will always choose to look into the negative rather than the positive or the neutral, because that's how our brains are designed. No? We have this negativity bias. As you could see in the picture, if things are definitely not good today, instead of looking at the good things, normally automatically, or the neutral, automatically our brains look for the bad ones. So that's the thing that we need to resolve. That's why we need to adopt the PERMA model. So we go to the PERMA model. So it is a model that was developed by the father of positive psychology, Dr. Martin Seligman. So this model is useful in order for us to be more grounded on what we will need to do in order for us to have better responses and outcomes on our cognitive reframe. So the first thing is to unhook with the IBC. And the second part is to get rid of that negativity bias. And we need to work hard on this because it's already in our system. No? That's how automatically our brain system works. By adapting also this PERMA model in our lives, which P stands for positive emotions there. Feeling of optimism, feeling good, pleasure. So don't mistake this by just smiling, no? Or doing smiley if there's a problem. No. This is not what we're meant to be positive emotions. What we would like to happen is that we look on the other side by being optimistic, by choosing on what would be the best and good positive response so that it would create a positive result. And one of the things that generates this is one, uh, there's someone who shared journaling or writing that builds positive emotions, as well as having that gratitude as an attitude, no? By counting the blessings that we have rather than counting on the bad things that we have experienced. So for me, what I do is every night before I sleep, I always pray, for to nourish my spiritual strength. And next would be to thank at least three significant things that has happened today in my life. Like most common is eating eating delicious food, and finishing a book. Or third is saying I love you to the person that I love. So that builds positive emotions. E stands for engagement. So engagements is the state of flow, making things interesting. No, engagement meaning simply finding your passion. Because I don't believe in work-life balance. No, because if you're passionate about your work, you won't uh, count the hours, right? You will not. You will do everything in order to resolve things because you love what you do. So that is what engagement is all about. You're always in a, of course, you're not always in a state of flow, but as much as possible, you want to go on that state of flow or engagement. So R stands for relationship, of course. It makes our life worthwhile if we have these social connections, love, intimacy, support from friends, team members, from our bosses, from our significant better halves, diba, loved ones, who makes life worth living. M stands for the meaning, no? Having a purpose, finding a meaning in life. So the big why. So the big why is always very important because it keeps us grounded. No? To what particularly this means to the what are the things that we value in life. No, if we find meaning or purpose on doing things, that we're doing this not just only for the sake of doing it, but rather there's a bigger purpose, we tend to be more engaged on what we do, right? And we tend more to be in a state of flow. We have these positive emotions as well, and we might have more good relationships. And last but not the least is achievement or accomplishments. No? The aspirations, realistic goals, and self-worth. So sometimes we feel down. Of course, not all the time that we're feeling this positive high. So in order for us to be back on track, one of the things that we need to do is to look into accomplishments, no? On the things that we have done in the past. One good thing, me, what I do is in order for me to have that positive flow is just look at my posts on Facebook. Wow, I've gone so far now. You could see there in the timeline on the things. When you look back, you could see the progress in your personal, in your professional life. No, or journaling, timelining is a good thing. So to apply in your life, so P, positive emotions, is remember to adopt a positive perspective as much as possible all the time, but not to the point that we just there's what we call the positive burden, wherein we just think positive but do not act on it or to the problem or situation. So that's not what we are emphasizing here. What we are emphasizing here is doing positive action through a positive perspective. Engagement, of course, finding things that makes you happy. Like some listen to music, no, if they are feeling stressed. Some do some physical activity. Some drink coffee, no, in order to be coffee is life. In order to be awakened and alive and enthusiastic. Next is, of course, relationship, which adds meaning into our lives. Meaning, in order for us to achieve it, finding our purpose on what we do best in our life. And of course, aspiration, savoring the things that we have accomplished in life. And I'm sure that you're already doing good. That's why you attended this seminar in order, or this webinar, in order for you to be to be more great, no? Well, significantly better. That's why you've attended this. And I hope that somehow I've imparted to you certain things that you could do in order for you to strengthen your mental wellness. First is through unhooking the stress, through identifying the thoughts and feelings coming from that stressful situation, the breathing exercise, and followed by the cognitive reframing through the formula E plus R equals O. Event plus response is equals to outcome. And we've also learned that automatically our brains have this negativity bias, so we need to work really hard by applying the unhooking IBC method and looking forward to the PERMA model to apply in our lives. Okay, so with that, we're done with this webinar, and thank you very much for attending, and I hope I've added value for you to be significantly better in strengthening your mental wellness. So with that, back to you, Sir Joe.
Alright, yan. Sir Coach Ryan, maraming salamat po for sharing with us the PERMA model, no? So if any one of you experiencing some stress right now, no? So, ganun tayo magsasabi ngayon. Nakaka-stress naman level 17, no? So medyo moderate yung stress. Alright? So, the floor is now open for your questions. So if you have any questions for Coach Rai, you can tell it on the chat box. Hello po sa mga team YouTube at team Zoom. Yan, you can write it on the chat box if you have any questions for Coach Rai. Anyone? Pinaparating po ng Team YouTube. Maraming salamat daw po Coach Rai for your for sharing the strengthening our mental wellness right now no during the pandemic. Ayan.
Thanks. Thanks.
Ayan.
Thanks
Sino yung
also
mga
for
ano diyan? Sino yung
participating.
mga kapenatics? Yan, no? Kapag
Thanks.
na-stress, kape lang. O kaya
Thanks.
mga ano, nakaka-stress, nawawalan ka ng panlasa. Panglasada,
Yes.
no? Ayan.
Coffee is life. Ayun, may
Parang
nag-message siya.
nakaka-stress, nawawalan ako ng panlasa. Panglasada, no? Ayan. So, yun yung sabi dito, no? Add to cart lang kapag nai-stress, okay? Pag dumating na yung package, mas nakaka-stress, no? Kasi COD, no? Ayan, copy now,
Hyperventilate.
hyperventilate later, yan, tama yan. Pero alam niyo guys, to share, no? Ay mga coffee enthusiast, yan. Isa yan sa mga pangtanggal ko talaga ng stress, no? Tumikim ng kape, mag-blend ng other coffee, no? Yan.
Starbucks, no?
O kaya mag-share ng memes, no? Yan. If you want some memes, just go on my wall. Yan. You can have many memes as you want. Ayan. So, Sir Coach Rai, I think wala pong questions na meron. Yan, sabi dito sa Team YouTube, okay? Yan, pag na-stress daw, mag-Mobile Legends. Pag puro talo, mas may stress ka lang, o, di ba? Ayan. Ay, ito, meron pa lang isa. Sir, possible po kayong ma-stress ng walang reason? From Sir John Ray Hernandez.
Wow, that's a good question, John. No? Yes, of course, no? Kasi hindi natin minsan alam where stress is coming from. No, so ang key part nga diyan is from our RBC technique is identify, no? Saan ba nanggagaling yung stress? I mean, ano ba yung nararamdaman natin? So is it, are we feeling stiffness in our muscles, or are we feeling ba, why am I feeling this weird, no? Why I'm having this weird feeling? So sometimes meron nun because we have this what we call intuition. No? We're in baka meron tayong strong ESP wherein we have minsan nafe-feel natin yung ganong vibe. Yung feel of negativity in a certain environment or in a certain room. Baka meron tayong third eye na sinasabi minsan. So sometimes we have those feelings that we cannot explain. So with that, the important thing is identify it and then have the breathing and maybe try to refrain by why am I what is this event that is having that's why I'm having a negative feeling, and then we could inject our positive response. So siguro our positive response for that would be, naku, mukhang creepy tong feeling, or bakit ko na-feeling tong stress na to. Siguro I will just good action for that is get out of the place para for you to have a different aura.
Okay, no? So, sometimes, parang siguro yung sabi ni Coach Ray ay get a new environment. Ayan. So, tama talaga yung sabi din ng mga psychologists na if you feel something unexplainably, ayan, go on a walk, ayan, and see other things na other than your routine, no? Ayan. So, also siguro, ayun sabi ni Sir kanina, ni Coach Ray kanina, sometimes our muscles are being stressed out. Kasi, if you are stressed, apektado ang pag-release ng hormones, ayan, ng stress hormones, ayan. So, ayan. So, sometimes exercise, ayan, can reduce the stress, ayan, mapawis. So, meron pa pong question, ito naman from Team Zoom. Sir, how can I overcome overthinking?
Ayan, no? So, yes, so thank you for that question. That's one of the mental traps actually, yung overthinking. Wherein sometimes if nasa stress tayo because uh, we meant to magnify things or overthink. No, it's actually a thinking trap wherein hindi naman pala ganun. No, we're thinking that this reality or what we're thinking is ganito yung mangyayari in reality, but in reality hindi pala ganun. A good example is when you are um, texting someone, and then parang meron lang siyang nasabi doon sa, for example, yung kami ni Lex, no? Uh, nag-message siya about he said May 24. So sabi ko, ano yung May 24? Sa September 25 yung webinar,
Parang
no?
alam ko yan, sir. Ano, Sir Coach
So
Ray.
nag-overthink ako na iba niya yung date. Baka
Oo.
naiba na ni Lex yung date. Paano kaya to?
May
Tuloy pa
24
ba?
and May 24.
Oo, yung pala, May 24, meaning there are 24 participants for the webinar. Okay? So yun yung mga ganung tipo. So with that experience, what you could do is yun nga, no? You need to clarify to the person or to the person that, yun nga, clarify ko kay Lex what is May 24. So yun nga, sinagot naman niya, it's the participants. Ayan. So we need to clarify to people before we conclude. Because that's the best way in order for us to address yung overthinking.
Okay, no? So, clarify para hindi mag-overthink, no? So, yan. Okay? May clap na ako, no? Anyway, so from Team YouTube, ito, maybe this will be the last question. Sir, paano kapag madaling mairita sa maliit na bagay? Minsan sa ingay at nagiging mapuna sa mga bagay-bagay. Is this a sign of stress?
Yes, yes. So actually, that's a sign of
Parang
mental
hypersensitivity
stress
tapos
o
biglang nagkakos ng ano.
hypersensitivity. Mm-hmm. So yeah, another good thing to do there is yun nga, identify mo saan ba nanggagaling. Why is it you're sensitive to the noises, to the things surrounding you? Identify it. Bakit ba? Why? Why is it, these things are happening? I'm feeling stressful on it. And then from identifying that, so do a breather, and then have that cognitive refrain. Ayan.
Okay, no? So, parang self-assessment. Ayan, no?
Uh,
Siguro I think kaya ngayon sir, nag-boom ang mga plantito, plantita, ayan no. Kasi may nabasa akong book na having a living organism, yung living things inside your home can really reduce a stress like a fish, owning a pet cat, ayan, may makakausap ka. Ayan. So we really need someone to talk to, ayan, no?
correct, oh, correct, John. No? That because may ano yun, scientifically proven yung mga animals especially, no? They
Mm.
absorb yung mga stresses natin sa katawan minsan. Kaya pag minsan you're cuddling your pet dog or cat, it relieves somehow yung mga stress, yung stresses
Yes, no,
sa katawan mo.
kasi they can sense also the stress
Yes,
and
they can
they will
absorb.
do something about it na like pasasayahin ka, ayan, para ma-reduce yung stress mo. Ayan, so scientifically
Tama.
proven yan, no? So
Pati
maraming
including
salamat po,
plants. Oo,
opo.
oo.
Ayan,
They
maraming
absorb.
salamat Coach Rai for answering the questions and sharing with us, okay, the um what call that, the techniques, okay, the perma model as is for strengthening our mental health. So with that, ayan po, maraming salamat po Sir Rai.
All
So
right.
let's proceed with the announcement. So
Yan, oo, promote ko lang din pala, Joe. We have
yes,
an
oh, sir.
upcoming. Oo,
Ayan, opo.
ikaw na ba? Ikaw na ba? Ah, sige.
Opo, sige sir.
Sige, sige.
Ayan. So ayan po, maraming salamat po for um, tuning with us until right now, no? So, na-miss namin kayo. Kung na-miss na kami, mas na-miss namin kayo. So, stay tuned for next week, no? Meron na ulit tayong regular Alpha TV, okay? So, after this webinar, so you'll be receiving your certificate. So, give us ample time, mga 48 hours to assess, okay? Next is kindly like our Facebook page, Ask Lex PH Academy, and YouTube, asklexph.com. So, short announcements lang po. We'll be having our Wave 10 already of Yellow Belt Certification Program starting from October 3 to 24. No? This is incorporated with e-learning plus Saturday live classes. No? So, kindly go to our website, www.asklexph.com. So meron na kaming sariling LMS, no? Hello, yan. Ang tawag namin diyan mga Alpha LMS. Okay, so ayun yung gagamitin natin, no? And next is the next wave of Green Belt. Okay? Ay sorry, from Sir Raymond, link po ng yung stress po ba kanina? Sige po, i-send po namin sa inyo, no? So, next wave of the Green Belt, okay, from October 10 to November 15, also with e-learning and live classes. So, kindly send us a PM if you are interested. Next is the Wave 2 of Certified Data Analyst. This is a trademark program of Asklex PH Academy. So, no one here in the Philippines offered this one. Okay, a certification for data analyst other than Asklex. So, this will be actually, minove na namin to until next week due to AAG cable installation, no? Ayan. So, kindly send us a PM for certification for data analyst wherein we will be learning our language and doing some complicated analysis and data structuring. So, next is the Certified Kaizen Professional. So, this is also a trademark certification program from Aztecs PH and we'll be giving 5,000 pesos discount for the first 100 packs, no? So, grabe, that's already 5. Tapos so mamaya po, isasend namin yung attendance link. Ito po, wait lang po. Announcement lang. Ayan. And ito yung sinasabi ni Coach Rai, the coaching and mentoring fundamentals from October 6, 13, 20, and 27. So, ayan, no? This is, maganda to if you are aiming for a supervisory position. Ayan. If you want a promotion or if you're currently handling people, no? Magandang way to effectively coach. Yan. So we believe that an effective leader would be effective influencer as well. Okay? So Coach Ray, may i-add na po ba kayo dito sa ating CMF program?
Wala na, Joe. Thank you very much for promoting it, and hopefully others will join us on the masterclass. See you there.
Okay, see you there, sabi ni Coach Rai. And ayan, so would like to call out no kung may gusto pong maging alpha partner or alpha ambassador, so just kindly send us a PM note in our Facebook page, okay, regarding this one. So if you want kasi we'll be doing an ambassadorship, yan, product ambassadorship with the Asklex. So we are pulling in some professionals to become part of the Asklex itself. Okay? And ayan, we'll be launching a joint program with Manila Coding Camp. It's a basic AutoCAD level 1 ages. This recommended from 13 and up. Ayan, no? So, we'll be having a 2,000 pesos off. So, magiging ano siya, 5,000 pesos yung registration niya from, ayan, ang kanyang program ay October 3, 4, 10, 11. So, just kindly send us a PM if you're interested in learning a technical skill such as AutoCAD. So now, we're done with our webinar. So kindly scan the QR code or this is the link that we'll be using for for our evaluation. So please do evaluate okay the webinar so you will be able to be eligible for the certificate. So that's all. Let's continue to become hashtag significantly better together. So maraming salamat po for tuning in and for the next webinar. So kindly check your emails na. So we'll be sending more of this one sooner and sooner. So ayan po. Ito po yung link. Yan. Sorry, chat ko dito. Yan. Okay, yan. Yan po yung link. So, for that, maraming salamat po. And ayun, see you on our next webinars.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you,
Salamat po, Coach
participants. Good
Rai.
night. Thanks, guys.
I like it, I love it, I want some more of it. Zile zile, zile zile, yo alergial, mile mile, mile mile, pe mai.